Now, Korea has laid out more details on the ongoing corporate restructuring drive today. The nation will pump $9.5 billion into state-run policy lenders, reeling from huge losses on loans made to the beleaguered shipbuilding and shipping sectors. Now, to give us more details, our Hwang Ji-hye joins us in the studio. Ji-hye, this $9.5 billion fund, it's basically a bailout of that size.
It's a refinancing plan that creates recapitalization fund worth around, as you just mentioned, $9.5 billion to expand the capital base of state banks, those being Korea Development Bank and Korea Exim Bank. The fund will allow banks to withstand the losses they're likely to incur when restructuring the country's ailing shipping and shipbuilding industries. The government is planning to launch the fund next month and operate it through the end of next year. Let's take a listen of what the finance minister had to say.
The recapitalization fund will have a limit of $9.5 billion established with loans provided by the BOK as well as government contributions. We plan to use it to buy cocoa bonds issued by the state-run banks.
The cocoa bonds, or contingent convertibles that the minister just mentioned, are basically the riskiest debt issued by banks that are automatically converted to equity under set conditions. So if the fund buys these cocoa bonds issued by state banks, it would ease the pressure on state-owned lenders that have high debt exposure to shipbuilders. Now, apart from the fund that will indirectly support the banks, the finance ministry will directly inject, or the government will directly inject, around $850 million of capital into the Korea Exim Bank this year.
Now, Ji-hye, an absolutely necessary move, I would presume, but will this restructuring drive cost that much?
Not really. The government actually expects the restructuring to cost an estimated $4 to $7 billion, considering the BIS ratio of KDB and Korea Exim Bank. The ratio of the banks, which in essence shows the solvency level of a bank or how much risk it has compared to its capital, currently each stands at 14.6% and 9.9%, and the government aims to meet the target of 13 and 10.5%. Now, this amount is far smaller than what the government set aside to facilitate the process, which is $9.5 billion. The government says the financial health of the state banks for now are not in conditions bad enough to cause imminent problems, but the expansion of capital is necessary to preempt future instability that could be triggered in the process of restructuring. It also added that not all of the funds will be released immediately and that they will be provided upon request by the banks.
Now, up until today, in fact, there had been calls on the nation's central bank to directly just inject cash to these state-run banks by printing more money. Well, at least for now, that seems out of the picture.
You're right. It's only going to be loans that the BOK provides this time, which means that the state banks will have the obligation to pay them back. But the government and the central bank did leave the door open to give out cash, noted in a line of their press release stating that the BOK should join efforts to do so in worst-case scenarios.
Aside from that fund from the government and the central bank to support these state banks, what are some other efforts in this restructuring drive?
Right. It was the measure this time that was announced this time was not only about the financing, but they also laid out some other plans, which is they're going to set up a new regular ministerial meeting to monitor how the restructuring plan is proceeding. The finance minister once again emphasized that the principle of the overall is that the companies implement their own reform plans and take responsibility of losses incurred. Korea's top three shipbuilders, Hyundai Heavy Industries, Daewoo Shipbuilding, and Marine Engineering, and Samsung Heavy Industries have all come up with plans to downsize by selling off properties and laying off workers. Hanjin Shipping and Hyundai Merchant Marine companies in another major sector of restructuring plan to finalize talks on cutting charter rates with ship owners by the end of this week.
Well, the grand overhaul of these industries is something that some point out that should have come much earlier, but better late than never, right?
Exactly.
All right, we'll be keeping our eyes on how effectively they calm this storm. Thank you, Ji-hye, for that report.
You're welcome.